Hey everyone, this is Aliana Kali with Brands Are Alive. In today's video, I'm going to share with you a framework for those of you who have an idea or a business or a project that seems a little bit unrealistic to you right now, or maybe it seems realistic, but you just have no idea how to go about moving in that direction. Maybe you don't have the resources just yet. Maybe it's something that's going to take years before you can manifest it. So how do you make it a reality? And I keep coming back to this idea of creating projects instead of thinking about it as a business. And this is even if you already have the business and you're trying to take it to the next level. So for example, one of the people I spoke to was a successful entrepreneur. He was, facilitator, coach, already in the healing industries, and he wanted to create a retreat center that combines other modalities that he doesn't have access to. So he needed to find the people and he needed the money. He wants to buy the property. He doesn't just want to rent it out. He has a specific location in mind, but the resources are just not there, and he wants to expand it and whatnot. So this was a big thing. Or this other person who wanted to create a film, and another person who has all sorts of products and offering ideas, but they didn't have any idea how to make it work with their current reality of working in the business, or sometimes people have full-time jobs or other obligations that, I don't have the time, the money, or I have no idea how to get started. So what do we do in this situation? So I keep coming back to this idea of creating projects instead. And this is what I call the 130 method. This is my iteration of somebody else's method. Unfortunately, I don't remember the guy's name or even the details of the method itself, but my iteration, I called it the 130 method. And how it works basically is you block out your calendar for the next year for 10 little projects. And each project, and I will explain all of this, each project will be limited to 10 hours maximum, 10 ideal clients to be tested on. So at the very minimum, you have to test it on 10 ideal clients or 10 days of paid ads. I'll explain this again. And then you have to limit yourself to $100 per test. So 10 tests, each one of them is 10 hours, and you're spending a maximum of $100. And that way you create limitation. So you're not making it bigger than it needs to be and spending months and months and months testing something, not knowing if it's going to work or not. Staying in your mind, in your head, which is one of the worst places to be in when you have ideas. It's great to think, it's great to daydream, but the worst thing you can do is just be in your own head for way too long. It'll drive you crazy, and you get no feedback, so you'll just keep going round and round, spinning your wheels, thinking about the same things over and over without making much progress at all. So how does this work? This is how I like to do it, and feel free to do it any way that works for you. Block out the calendar for 10 tests. That means if I'm only spending an hour a day working on this, you can certainly find or create an hour a day to work on this project if it's important to you. If this is something that keeps coming back to you and you're like, you know what, this is the next level for me. This is a dream. It is worth finding 1 hour, 2 hours if you can. 1 hour is more than enough. It's not about how much time you spend on it. It's the quality of your attention and focus. What are you working on? Are you working on the right things? If you are, 1 hour is more than enough. So if you're spending an hour a day and it's a 10-hour limit, that means each test is going to take you 2 weeks, considering a 5-day work week, and you're taking the weekend off. What does this mean in practical terms? Let's say you're wanting to test out new products, new offerings. Or in this case, like this guy, let's say, he said he wanted a retreat. Well, how about you create a virtual workshop? Or if it's really important for you to meet people in person, how about you block out a weekend in an Airbnb somewhere? Find an Airbnb that inspires you. It's not the ideal, it's not the dream, it's not the location that you want, but it's certainly a step in that direction that allows you to test it out. And maybe you could say, okay, it depends on whether or not you have an audience, of course, but let's say you block it out 8 weeks out, and you start promoting it. You give yourself a couple of months to promote it to people in your network, and you've connected with other people who have the modalities that you want to introduce in your healing center. And you're like, hey, would you join me on a 2-day thing? And here's what I'm planning to do, and let's get together and do this. And you make it happen. Do you see how that's much more doable? And it's not the thing that you want. And please don't misunderstand. This is not me discouraging you from dreaming big and going after the big thing. But I want you to start moving in that direction. It's so important. If you know anything about my work, you know that I am not big on taking action just for the sake of action. I'm totally fine with taking days, weeks, months if necessary to sit on something if it doesn't feel like the right timing. But if it does and you're just spinning your wheel because the thing is too big, then you have got to take the next step. And the next step should feel like the next logical step, because the gap from here to there is too big. And if that's the case and you keep thinking about that, then and you're staying in your own mind, not talking to the market, not talking to people, not trying it, not acting on it, you're just gonna stay stuck forever. So you don't have to know all of the test projects that you're blocking out in your calendar, but just set an intention that I am gonna try the minimum viable version, the prototype of this big thing. I'm gonna strip it down to its most rudimentary elements. What is so important to me about this? For example, in this case, what's most important to you is creating a healing and beautiful environment and all of that, then certainly you don't have to be attached to it being exactly the way that you want it to be. You're like, I set an intention, this is how I want to feel, this is how I want people to feel, and this is how I want it to be at the end. Another great way that you can use this, and by the way, I use this too in like product offerings and things like that. A lot of people think that just because they found something that sells, that's it, the job is done. I don't believe in spreading yourself thin and trying to grab every single opportunity out there. If anything, I lean so much more on essentialism. But I also think that there's a lot of value in testing offers continuously. So what I like to do is periodically, every couple of weeks, I think of a new thing that I could potentially create. And I don't even spend 10 hours on it. I spend just a few hours putting together a page. And before I create the product, the offer, the service, before I detail all of it, when I say I'm testing it less than 10 hours, doesn't mean even creating it. Sometimes it's just like, what's the most minimum thing that I can do that will give me indication if I should take this path or this path? Because marketing and business is all about testing. Really, it's all about trying different things. So I'll put it on a page. Here's the offer, here's who it's for, here's the pricing, and put it in front of 10 ideal clients. And this brings me to the next point in the 130 method. The 10 ideal clients are a minimum for you to see if something has potential. You don't want to show it to 2 people and be like, well, 2 people just didn't have anything there, so therefore there's nothing there for me. Because, and this is not a perfect number, okay? This is just to set a minimum so that you don't give up too quickly, because actually it takes a lot more effort to have an honest conversation with 10 ideal clients than most people think. It's not about talking to 10 people. It's about having an honest conversation with 10 of your ideal clients. I put here 10 days because sometimes people do things like paid ads, or maybe you're not selling to clients per se, but you're testing something out. You're still testing it with people, right? Like, you're not selling to a cat or a dog, you're selling to a human being. But, this is a bare minimum so that you're not throwing something a little bit too soon. Sometimes it's going to be very clear, especially if you know what you're doing, like with paid ads, for example, and you've been doing it for a while, and you can tell pretty quickly, hey, is this working, not working? And you can switch gears. Most people I talk to already know what they're doing with marketing. They're not complete beginners, but they're not necessarily like experts in a particular channel or something, or paid ads or something specifically. Sometimes they are, but most of the time they just know what to do. And it's mostly something going on here that's like, they overthink it and they complicate things and they make it hard on themselves, which happens to everyone. I mean, even I benefit a lot from speaking to people in my field who are not telling me something I don't know, but it helps to speak to somebody who is an outsider, who can bring some clarity sometimes, or help us see things in a different way. And the last one is, I would set a maximum budget. So where here, this is a minimum to make sure that you speak to enough people to start gathering some information. And by the way, if you can speak to more than 10 ideal clients, this should be a continuous thing. If you find that this thing is showing you some potential, don't stop. Like, it's totally fine to take that project and make it the next test, a reiteration on that project, and reinvest in it. In fact, that would be great. That's exactly what you're supposed to do if it works. It's not about trying as many things as possible. This is about reminding you that you have an opportunity to, if this quote unquote fails, you can move on to the next thing pretty quickly. You can learn from that and implement in the next test. But if you find something that works, absolutely, please go ahead and reinvest in it. Speak to more clients, spend more money if it helps to put it in front of more people. Don't be afraid to try the same thing in a different way as a second test. Here I'm setting a maximum because this is where sometimes people think that they have to spend a lot more than they really need to test something. I don't want you to go and get a $500 a day software, you know what I mean? I don't want you to go spend tens of thousands of dollars on paid ads, especially if you don't know. I don't want you going spending so much money just to test it out. Some of you might say, Aliana, what's $100 in testing? It's not gonna do much. You should be able to test anything, like I said, with whether it's a landing page or a page on your website, or I don't care if it's like a Word doc. You don't have to make it fancy. You should be able to test it almost for free or next to free. And if you're using paid ads, this is to give you more impressions. It's not about converting people. Please understand, this is not about putting a complete project and hoping that this person is not only going to resonate, but also gonna buy immediately and that you're gonna get a return on your spend immediately. That's not going to work, but this is a good enough amount to give you exposure. Because the thing is, the less money you spend, the more time it takes for you to be exposed to people. And spending money on ads, by the way, is not a cheat sheet. It's not something that creates success. People think, oh, it's because that person is able to spend money on ads. That means almost nothing. I wouldn't say it means nothing, but it's not that. If you don't have a good offer, a good product, a good whatever it is, something that people want and need and are willing to spend money on, there's no amount of money you're going to spend that's going to make it work. Let me just put it like that, okay? So let's say your test was, I have these products that I'm thinking of creating, and I don't want to spend months and months and months creating them, not knowing if this is the right direction. I want to put it in front of a maximum number of people, and I don't have a big enough audience. I can't think of 10 ideal clients in my immediate network right now, and I want to facilitate or expedite the process of testing it. Okay, maybe I could spend $10 a day with an ad that just tells people to go to the website, check out this one thing. It's a low requirement for them, so they're not having to make a big decision right away. You're literally just spending the money to put your stuff in front of a bigger audience. That's it. But limited to $100 so that you don't end up spending thousands of dollars just testing things out. And basically, if you do this and if you do the math, that means if you're doing the 1 hour a day, like I said, so you're working on each test for 2 weeks and you're doing 10 of these, let's say a test a month. Okay, so it takes you 2 weeks to create it. If you can spend more than an hour, you can do it in a week. And then you have 2 weeks to actually test it, reiterate it, and reflect on it. Did this work? Is there anything I can do better next time? And maybe you'll find that something here is not working for you. When I'm making content, I'm making it as general as possible. Sometimes it's a challenge to give specifics because different people have different industries. You guys know I'm not sticking to like one specific industry or one specific quote unquote niche. I want to work with people who are connected to the heart, period. If you are somebody who is creating from the heart, if you're creating from a higher state of consciousness, something that reflects your spirit, your true self, I want to talk to you. If you want to do marketing in a way that is aligned with who you are, I want to talk to you. I don't care if you're a coach or a copywriter, you sell products, I don't care. You quote unquote creative industries, not creative industries, I don't care. So different people have different needs, but try it out, see what works. And remember, like I said, it's all about testing. It's all about trying different things. And don't be afraid to make mistakes. I know it's easy to say that, don't be afraid to make mistakes. Know that likely no mistake you're going to make is going to be fatal. So just go for it. That's my pep talk. That's it. I think we're done here with this video. I can't think of anything else to add here. So I just want to thank you for watching. If this is something that you want to talk about a little bit more, if this is something you want one-on-one help with, I'll put a link wherever you're watching this so that you can book a 15-minute call with me and we can talk about how I can help you create a strategy for where you're going next. My name is Aliana Kali, founder at Brands Are Alive. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.